welcome to the Bathavon Forum, which is being recorded by Mark. Thursday, the 12th of August. Apologies from Kevin Guy. He is coming along, is my understanding. We're starting up going back to the Bathavon Forum in bringing the Cam Valley and Bathavon North Forums together under one roof. I was going to cover this under the AGM overview, but the reasoning is that this is the original structure of the Bathavon Forum, which we split it into two, north and south, because of travel issues. One side or the other side had to travel across Bath in the rush hour. Not the best of moves. So we decided to separate the forum into two, north and south. As we've all been using online technology for the forum meetings, it makes sense to bring them back together, especially as Kevin Guy was chair of the North. This opens up a number of opportunities as well. However, the point is there's no travel needed and we can all work together.
My name is Becky Reynolds. I'm Director of Public Health in Bath and North East Somerset, appointed from the previous director, Bruce Lawrence, who I'm sure you will know. So I've been in post since the 1st of April. And so I was asked if I would come along and give a brief update on COVID, which I'll do. And then I'm very happy to take any questions if there's time. If there isn't, then I'm very happy for colleagues to email me and I can just answer anything via email or have conversations with people afterwards. So in just going through some of the key things then, the rates in England, as we know, reached quite a high peak, didn't they, and then drops down, and they've been fairly consistent on a sort of plateauing level for the last 2 weeks. And that's the same picture that we've seen in Bath and North East Somerset. So our rates from a height of over 700 per 100,000 are now hovering at about the 300 per 100,000 cases, which means about between 75 and 85 new confirmed cases every day in Bath and North East Somerset. So our rates are 304. Currently in England, they're 296. So we're very slightly, or almost the same really, very slightly above England. The Southwest is 330 per 100,000. So we've dropped below the Southwest, which is good to see because we were quite a bit higher at one time. We've currently got over 20 people in the RUH at present. They're not all Baines residents and they're not all in the ICU, the high dependency unit. And what we are seeing is that people are going into the RUH generally not so poorly, so not seeing quite so many going into ICU, and they're tended to coming out much quicker as well. Something that's just come out today, but there's been a lot of noise about it on the press over the last few weeks, is that from Monday the 16th, people who are double jabbed or aged under 18 will no longer legally be required to self-isolate if they are identified as a close contact of someone who has COVID, and if their second vaccination was more than 14 days since they had contact with the person with COVID. So we've known that's coming for quite a while. We've had confirmations today that that will be happening from Monday with a little bit more detail. It's interesting that I'm seeing in the press and on the general press release, it talks about young adults under the age of 18 who won't have to legally be required to self-isolate if they're a contact of someone who has COVID. What I've also seen on other information that's come to me from Public Health England is that it's people under the age of 18 years and 6 months. So I'm just trying to seek clarification on that, because for some young adults, those 6 months will make a huge difference, won't they, whether you're 18 or you're 18 years and 6 months. There is a slight difference for people who are health and social care workers. So for the general public, what they will be asked to do is to take a PCR test. It won't be legally mandated from what I understand, but they'll be asked, if they are a contact of a close case, to take a PCR test. They will not need to be self-isolating until they get the results of that. So if that applies to you or I, we can still go about our business, take a PCR test, go about our business. We don't need to stay at home until the results come back. If we are a health or social care worker, though, we do have to have a negative test before we go back to work because of the vulnerability of the clients, of the patients that we're working with, and we will need to do daily LFTs. So health and social care staff are aware of that, and I've sent some of that information around to colleagues today who work in adult social care and children's social care. In terms of care homes, as of today, we've got 34 cases in our care homes, about half amongst residents and half amongst staff. Generally speaking, people are less poorly than they were back in January, and that's because of the success of the vaccination programme. So not only does it reduce our risk of getting COVID, it also means that if we do get COVID, which is still possible if we're vaccinated, it reduces the likelihood that we will be seriously ill with it. So generally speaking, there are always exceptions, but generally speaking, people are a little bit less poorly in care homes who are getting COVID. We've got, in terms of rapid testing, we've got a new mobile van that's just started out and about this week. It looks like an Asda van. If you happen to see a green van that says rapid testing with the Baines logo on the side, and that's particularly targeted and aimed at areas where we are seeing higher rates and where people are less likely to access lateral flow testing. And it's to try to encourage people to get into that routine habit of lateral flow testing. That's what I wanted to say, really. Our vaccination, it was fantastic to see our vaccination rates increasing. They are still lower than the national average, and that's not for older people. People over the age of 50, we've got, generally speaking, higher rates. But for under 50s, we have lower rates, and so we are really trying to push and make it as easy as possible. And so there are plans to work with both universities, including Bath University, that I believe is in this area forum's footprint, to try to increase vaccination rates once the universities start back in September, October.
There's one question I'd like to ask, if I may, whilst people make their minds up. You said we've got a lower vaccination rate, and if I understood correctly, that seems to be in the younger age groups. Do we know the reason for this?
No, definitively, but I strongly suspect that it's because, generally speaking, younger adults, all of us when we were younger, can sometimes think that we are impervious to everything and that we won't be ill. And it's not the easiest thing to get up to the Bath race course to get the vaccination. Mm-hmm. You've got to have a particular incentive, haven't you? You've either got to be aware of your own vulnerability or be aware that you're living with someone who's vulnerable or working with people. So for younger adults and people in their 20s and 30s, it's a bit of an effort to get up to the Bath race course, which is why we're particularly trying to look at different venues working with the CCG. So I suspect it's to do with access, but I've no definitive proof about that. But over the last few weeks, we've been really trying to make it easier for access. And we're specifically doing that with our universities, with both of them, when they start back in September and when they have open days. So that's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions they wish to raise? No, I can't see any hands raised. If I've missed someone, please shout. Very much, Becky, that is really appreciated. Just shows that the clarity that there aren't any questions.
Very much, and thank you for inviting me. And I'm always welcome to come back at any point if colleagues would like me to. I'll get going now, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky.
Cheers.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
your time. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
I think I saw Kevin Guy having arrived. Kevin, I understand you'd like to say a few words.
Hi, John. Thank you. And first of all, I apologise for being a little bit late. My last meeting overran. My diary seems to be a bit back to back today, and technically I'm on holiday, but don't tell anybody that. I just like a very few words. Thank you, John. COVID's been a really difficult time, and obviously that brief from Becky has illustrated how hard officers at Baines have been working. So my big thanks goes out to all those officers that have done extremely difficult things in extremely difficult scenario. But this forum is all about bringing people together. We've got 21 parish councils. I really think it's important that everybody gets a chance to be listened to and heard, and their views are shared. So I really welcome this forum being put back together. And I thank you, John, personally for for volunteering to chair it. So, because I know it's you're a busy man as well. But this is obviously the initial meeting, and I'm more than happy to get cabinet members to come along to these meetings to talk about the bigger issues that are your concerns. And I would like to use this as a conduit for you guys to share your thoughts with us as an administration, so it will help us formulate policy, and for it not just to be a talking shop, but for you actually to feel that you're involved with developing policy and listened to. So I think it's really, really, really important that this forum is back up and running. And again, I thank you, John, and I look forward to seeing what you want from us at Baines. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Kevin. What do you want? Everything. Thank you. Moving on to the AGM. I've gone through the forum being brought back together, Bathhaven area. Dave, if I can hand over to you for the chair and vice chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I always enjoy these particular times in the meetings, because for 30 seconds in the year, I become really, really important when I get to take over the chair of a forum and then promptly hand it back to somebody who's put themselves forward to do it for the rest of the year. So at the moment, as it stands at the moment, the only nomination that we have for chair of the Bathavon Area Forum is yourself, John, unless there is somebody else out there that's not been in contact with either myself or Mark and would like to put themselves forward. And if you do, now would be the time to make that known. Let me just check the other page, because we're over onto 2 pages today, which is actually really good. No, I can't see anything, and there isn't anything in the chat room as far as I'm aware. So if you are all in agreement, which I'm presuming by your silence that you are, I would like to announce that John Adler, you will become the chair of the Bathavon Area Forum for the forthcoming 12 months. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dave.
And now I think actually for the rest of the information about the vice chair of the forum, that will fall to you, John.
Smoothly done. To my knowledge, we haven't had any nominations for chair or notice of interest. Does anyone wish to bring notice forwards that they wish to stand as chair? I can't see any. Can I just ask one question, David? Is the role of vice chair able to be assigned at any point during the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the way that the area forums work, and in the sense that they're quite inclusive and they're quite flexible, if there is somebody that has got an interest in becoming vice chair for the next 12 months and perhaps wants to have a conversation with yourself or me or Mark about what it entails and what that would involve, then please feel free to do so, and then we would slot that into one of the subsequent meetings as we go along, which is what we've done before with the other forums.
Yeah, fine. Just the point being, it can be left open and can be filled. Thank you. Okay, moving forwards rapidly, terms of reference. Mark, you circulated suggested terms of reference.
I did, yes.
Can I hand over to you for that?
Of course you can, yeah. I've had some comments back from John on some of the wording in the terms of reference, which are subtleties that I think are important to change to them. And I've had nothing from anyone else who it's been circulated to. At the moment, the members of this forum would be who were the previous members of the Cam Valley and the Bathavon North Forum. So that is the parish councils, the 21 representatives, and the 6 ward councillors that represent the various parished areas on the forum. So what I would say is, if there is anything in there you would like added or altered in any way, let me know, and we can put together an inclusive amended terms of reference to circulate, and then hopefully we can bring that back to the next meeting to agree. At the AGM, one of the things that we do look to do is invite other organisations, if they are keen to become a member, to put themselves forward or be nominated. I think at this stage, because it's the inaugural meeting of the coming back together of the forum, we haven't got any outside groups that have had the opportunity yet to do that. But I think as we grow as a forum area, we have the opportunities from meeting to meeting to look at that and review the terms of reference as we go along.
Thank you, Mark. That makes sense. I also think as we move forwards and as topics come to the fore, especially in the area of climate emergency, as other organisations begin to get involved, and that's fine. We can grow as time goes by. Thank you, Mark, and we'll bring the amended terms of reference forwards to the next meeting. The annual report. You've all received the.
John, could I just ask a question?
Please do.
I mean, I've indicated I live up in Winsley, and you've invited me along because of my climate emergency interest. But do the terms of reference need to make note of the invitation that's gone out towards Winsley and Linkley Stoke, or is that entirely along the climate emergency strand, in which case it's not relevant? I just wanted to be clear.
Do you want me to answer that, John?
Please do.
Yeah. Hi, Richard. Yeah, the fact that you've been invited along is that this is a public meeting and anyone is able to join our meetings online, or if they're held in person, come along. The point about voting really only sort of sits around once a year of the AGM when we do vote in our chair and vice chair, and if there is something that the forum choose to take up as a bigger issue. But at the moment, it really is those voting issues that sit around that membership. Everyone else is very welcome to join. So the invite that's come from John to yourself is more than welcomed. And yeah, we're really pleased to see additional people coming along to these meetings.
Okay, is that fine, Richard? Okay, thank you. Everyone's received the annual report, which is three pages long. I'm not proposing to read that all out word for word. I think there's a few things though that are worth highlighting, which is just a few things. There are some key principles that apply to everyone, that we listen, prioritize, join up, work together, and we share ideas. This is meant to be a constructive forum, and it's meant to be community driven. So it's us, the community, bringing things up to BANES and supporting BANES in taking things forwards in the way that, to be blunt, we'd like. Bathhaven isn't the only forum. For those who are new to this, there's also Bath, Chew Valley, Keynsham and Somer Valley. So there's 5 areas in all. And the overall aim is to provide a mechanism for collaboration between communities and communities up to BANES. That's something I can't stress enough, community driven. We've got to be inclusive and be the link with grassroots engagement. So linking with residents as well as just communities. Communities is such a broad term. It's our residents that count. What has been surprising, it surprised me, is that the feedback that this forum has been given has been felt to have played a vital role in helping shape the services that are provided. I mean, the previous 18 months really, has been dominated by one topic, COVID. And BANES has been absolutely excellent in the speed and the manner in which the services have responded to the pandemic. Until recently, our area has been an oasis. The Southwest has been an oasis in the rest of the UK. And it's interesting to note that it's felt that previous forum meetings have helped to shape the services enabling that rapid response. I will repeat that. And the reason I say it's surprising is I remember all the forums we went through and it didn't feel that way at the time. And it's interesting looking back in retrospect that actually there was an impact. And this forum hasn't just had an impact on COVID, it's also had an impact on the clean air zone. I'm sure that there are others. I've gone through the reason why the Bathhaven Forum was split and we're back together. There is a downside of online meetings, and that's that not everyone likes using online meetings. So there is there are a number of people who will feel excluded because we're meeting online. Too much can be made of that, because if we meet centrally and we all drive somewhere, there are similarly a number of people who are excluded. I don't think there's a one answer fits all. I think one of the benefits of meeting virtually is we don't have travel time, not having to travel an hour to meeting, an hour back or whatever. We don't have parking fees, we're not using the car. So I think we should continue along this basis. And if people feel otherwise, please do let myself and Baines know if you have different views to that position. The report gives an outline of what meetings have been held over the last year. I won't go over that. I won't repeat the information that's in that note. But I just wanted to stress those points that we are community driven, and this forum can be what we decide to make it. I can't underline that enough. So I don't know if there are any questions. Hopefully not. Thank you. Good point, Sarah. You don't need to arrange childcare for Zoom. You can include them in the meeting. Okay. Item 4, planning. I hand over to Simon De Beer, who will give a short presentation, which will be followed by questions and answers. Simone, over to you.
Thank you, John. Mark's going to share a presentation, a very short presentation. It's only a short item, and really I'm acting as a signpost today to the forthcoming consultation. So I don't envisage there being too many detailed issues that we can raise today, other than just letting you know what's up and coming. And also I wouldn't be able to answer all the questions because the planning policy team did most of the work in revising the policies, and so I'd need to follow up any detailed questions anyway. So really, Mark, if you could just introduce myself. I'm Simon De Beer, the head of the planning policy team, of the planning service in Baines. And Mark, if you go to the next slide, please. So from the 27th of August, we're starting the consultation on the local plan partial update and a suite of supplementary planning documents. And you may know the reason why we need to do a fairly urgent update to the local plan. The plan is the basis for decision making in Baines alongside neighbourhood plans. And our local plan really is out of date now. It doesn't properly help us to take into account the climate and the nature emergencies in terms of planning decisions. So we felt before we do a full review of the plan, which can only be done once WECA, which is the Combined Authority, have done their regional plan, can we do a full review. So in the interim, we're updating some key policies, a limited range of key policies in the local plan, really around climate and nature emergency and a few other issues, as well as 4 supplementary planning documents. And these documents all supplement provide the detail for the policies in the local plan. And they're all on consultation at the same time to make it easy, and they're all from 27th of August to the 8th of October. The supplementary documents will cover energy efficiency and retrofitting in civil construction, transport development, and houses and occupation. John, if you can, next slide, please, Mark. So the key issues we're seeking to address and change policy on are the climate emergency, particularly things around renewable energy generation, zero carbon construction, sustainable transport. So in there will be policies around the parking standards, which we'll get onto, and also electric vehicle charging. The ecological emergency, we want to facilitate early on biodiversity net gain to make sure that all our new developments seek to implement that biodiversity net gain ahead of the national target that's coming in through the Environment Act in due course. We also need to address a shortfall in housing land supply. This is something we're beholden to in terms of having to show as a council a 5-year housing land supply and a full to meet our full need as given to us through the core strategy. Towards the end of the plan, but we're going to fall short. If we don't rectify this, we'll become vulnerable to predatory planning applications and housing in the wrong place and unsustainable housing, as we were in 2014 before we adopted the core strategy. So it's really important that we're in control of the agenda. We need to meet the needs for housing. There's also a housing crisis. We need to make sure it's the right housing of the right type in the right place, and hence we feel it's right to address that through the partial update. There's issues around the green recovery in terms of making sure we've got the right employment land to help business in the right place. And you'd be surprised perhaps to hear that even while a lot of us are working at home and a lot of behavioural change, there still is a need for employment space for manufacturing and a growing demand, particularly in somewhere like Bath and Somerset where things are quite constrained. One particular policy is Greenbelt villages. We've had to review the approach to some of the housing development boundaries in Greenbelt villages, because it wasn't in alliance with a recent High Court ruling. Most of you, where there have been changes, will have been involved in that, either reviewing your boundaries, which generally have become tighter, or designating for the first time an infill boundary for a settlement in the Greenbelt, which didn't have one before. And I'm hoping that you say, if you're affected in that way, your village has been involved with the policy team on updating and that bit of work. Next slide, please, Mark. Just to let you know the stage we're at. So in terms of the partial update, local plans do take a long time to prepare. This is quite a short, tight period for a plan. So we're hoping to have it adopted next year, having begun last year. We're at the stage now, having gone through all the evidence base, having done engagement with the various communities. We're now having the July Council agreed a draft plan, which you may have seen. That then goes for the consultation I spoke about between August and October. That will then be submitted for examination, be subject to a public examination. If anybody wants to appear at that examination, they have to register an objection. So it's a bit odd, but even if you support the plan, but you want it to be changed further, you need to register an objection during that process. All the comments then received through that consultation will go to an inspector for the examination process, and then we get the report after examination, hopefully for adoption in mid-2022. Next slide, please, Mark. So there's actually 3 SPDs we're amending. They're quite detailed. I wouldn't be able to pick up any detailed questions you have on these. Obviously, we can respond to those through the team. But what we're doing, we've got an existing SPD which helps us with retrofitting a lot of our buildings, which are going to be a key to making sure we help respond to the climate emergency, and also setting some standards for new development. So it covers both the elements of retrofitting and new development. And you can see there the list of improvements to it, making it a much user-friendly document, much easier to use. A lot of these measures do not need planning permission, don't need any kind of permission. So you can do a lot of these without going through the planning process. And the document now should be much more user-friendly and easier to use. And the website's being updated and improved just to help people make those changes, which I think are necessary. Next slide, please, Mark. Our transport colleagues have produced an SPD covering 4 areas. So parking standards, we're reviewing the parking standards. Those need to be tightened up a little bit in terms of the variation across the district. So recognising for the first time that there is variation between central Bath, perhaps, and the rural areas. So there'll be a different standard applied to those. And if you want to have a look at the SPD when it's published, you can see what those are. We're looking also at vehicle charging approach, and this is for new development, not for existing retrofitting. There's a walking and cycling infrastructure SPD to cover accessibility and help us in terms of that real focus on helping people to walk and to cycle, and then updating the travel plans guides for new development to make sure that we're doing the most we can to get that modal shift from the private car to walking and cycling and public transport. Next slide, please, Mark. And I think this is the last slide. So the consultation is from August to October. Those are the dates. We'll do wide publicity when it starts. We'll do mail outs. It'll be helpful for parish councils to do publicity as far as you can as well. There will be a series of webinars which we've found have been very popular in the past, very well attended, and we'll publicise those as well. We encourage people as far as possible to respond online on the online document. We will accept paper comments, we will accept emails, but really it's so much more efficient and helpful if you can encourage people to respond through the portal, through the published document. We'll send all of you all the information you need to be able to partake in that process. And then all those comments, as I say, will be considered by the council, but really the purpose is to go to the examination process for the inspector to consider. So I think, Mark, that's the end of the presentation, Mark, if you want to close that. We've got time, I suppose, to pick up a few high-level questions. I couldn't pick up any detailed questions, but obviously we can follow those up afterwards if you do have any more detailed questions.
Thank you very much, Simone. That's much appreciated. Any questions? Hello? No? Obviously a very clear presentation, Simone.
Well, I've confused everybody.
If any, one of the things I often find is questions come to mind later, because we receive information, we process it, and it takes time to take in the full import of the information one's received. So should queries come to mind, please do forward them.
We're very happy to receive any questions or queries now and also during the consultation stage. So I think, Mark Hayward, you had the planning policy email address. If that's made available, then people can send any questions or queries to that, and then the team will respond.
Thank you. Oh, one question's come in on chat. What does SPD?
SPD is a supplementary planning document. So it's a more detailed document which provides supplementary information to the local plan. The local plan being the primary parent document setting out the council's new policies. And to avoid putting too much detail in the plan, we do supplementary planning documents. So sorry for the acronyms, but planning is rife with acronyms. We try to avoid them, but that's what that means.
Thank you. If you think planning is rife, try working in IT. Okay.
Thank you very much.
One further question, is the detail of the document available?
Yes, it is. It's available at the moment as the document which went to full council. So it's part of the Democratic Services website papers. It's accessible there. There will be a few delegated changes to that document to address some minor issues in editing and errors. And then it'll be published formally as part of the consultation at the end of August.
Okay.
With both the SPDs and the local plan update, the detail is available as part of the decision-making process.
Thank you. Would it be possible to provide links to those documents? Because websites can get confusing.
Yes, we can do that.
Not a criticism, it's just
Understood.
If you've got a website with lots of documents and lots of subjects.
In different places. No, I understand, we can do that.
I was going to say, if I liaise with you, Simon, on that, I can make sure that goes out in our follow-up email in the next couple of days. Okay.
Okay. No, I'll leave that question there. And another comment has just come in, which is, so in reality, there's little time for councils, and I assume it's meaning parish councils, to see this.
Well, it's available from now, from July, and it'll be so people can see the basis of it as one of the papers we just referred to. The deadline is October, and the statutory consultation period is 6 weeks. So in effect, it's a lot longer than the 6 weeks. We've got most of August, September, a little bit of October and July. So I know it's probably never enough time, but hopefully, if you start looking at it now, you will get that a few extra weeks just to get you familiar with the documentation.
Okay, and there must be a council meeting during, well, I'm assuming there's a parish council meeting during September. It is a fair point. This is not laying a complaint, but we certainly find that there's so many consultations. The question is, how do we take them all in? However, if we don't have the consultations, how are we involved in things?
We do try and align our consultations. So if you've got linked consultations to make it easier for you, that we present those in a way which you can engage more easily. But you're right. We do want your comments. We do want to hear what you've got to say. And so it's really important that we go through these consultations on these quite key documents.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone hasn't got chat on. The comments just come in that there has been informal consultation, parish councils before this more formal consultation, and Sarah's got her hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to just say that one of the reasons, as Simon explained, for doing this particular update at this time is to ensure that the plan responds better to the climate emergency. And for that reason, it's really, really important that we hear from people who think that what we're doing is a good thing, or even that it doesn't go far enough. Your comments are important, because there will be people who are sure to comment who will say it goes too far and is unreasonable. So it's very important that if you have a different view, you let us know.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay. Thank you very much, Simon.
Sorry, Chair, could I just butt in, please?
Douglas.
Douglas Creed, I'm Chair of Kelston Parish Meeting. I've also recently assumed the Chair of the Environments Committee of Bath Preservation Trust. And one of the things that concerns us in the Trust is consistency. I know it's extraordinarily difficult for the number of parishes that we have around Bath, but it's crucially important for the setting of Bath and its state. So during the consultation, it's absolutely vital that we do get a consensus and that it's recognised around all the parishes that surround Bath. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Douglas. That's an excellent point. A problem we have in our communities cross boundary. So that brings about lack of consistency between Baines and Wiltshire. Different pressures, different planning departments, one community. It's interesting. Thank you. Any more? No? Okay, thank you very much, Simone. Really appreciate. I know you've had a very, very busy evening, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the climate emergency. I'm going to receive a presentation and talk from Jackie Head, who's I'm not sure how I should describe your position, Jackie, but basically one of the leaders of the climate emergency group in Chew Magna, and it'd be very interesting to hear about what has happened in Chew Magna over the last 9 to 12 months. Jackie?
Okay, just to clarify, I'm actually from East Harptree, which is in the Chew Valley, and I've been part of my own parish council climate and nature emergency working group, but I'm now part of the steering group of the Chew Valley Area Forum. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about this evening, is the Chew Valley Area Forum. And I'm going to try to be clever and share my screen. If it doesn't work, Mark will come to the rescue. Okay, so John heard about what we were doing in the Chew Valley and asked if I could just come and explain a bit about how we set up. And that's particularly what I'm going to focus on now. So I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes if you can bear it. And he particularly asked if I could concentrate on any sort of handy hints that we might have from our experience of setting up a valley-wide climate and nature emergency working group. So it comes under the Chew Valley Forum, and the working group's been running for 10 months now. So you'll see little boxes like this for some of the handy hints and tips as we go along. So one of the kind of principal ideas behind this climate and nature emergency working group for the Valley was that we'd already realised in our parishes, a few people in different parishes, that there was this massive task ahead of us, often described as, you know, your house is on fire. And certainly recently, there's been so much evidence about that, it's so in the news now, isn't it, about the climate and nature emergency being real and immediate and happening now. IPCC report only this week telling us it's a code red. So we knew that. We knew that we wanted to reduce our carbon footprint across the valley, and part of our frustration in individual parishes was that we couldn't somehow get critical mass. So we knew that we wanted to find a way to connect and get some sort of critical mass across the Chew Valley to make big changes. And that's my first tip really, is I think if you're going to have a working group, having a really simple vision of what you're about is incredibly helpful. So this is the process. This is where we travelled along the way. It started off with the Chew Valley Area Forum running a session. They invited speakers from Baines and other local groups to talk about the climate and nature emergency. And then after that, a couple of us, Nick Baker and myself, came up with the idea of a working group. And just to give you a bit of background on that, Nick and I were both actually involved in other Cross Valley stuff to do with the environment, and we were getting frustrated there as well. Nick was a parish councillor. I wasn't. I just was a member of my my local parish climate and nature emergency working group, and we were both feeling frustrated and saw this opportunity really. So we proposed some terms of reference, and those were accepted in the September. And then we established the working group in October. And because of COVID, but actually we would have done it anyway, we decided to do it online. And there was a very clear reason for that, and that was to do with inclusion across the whole valley. We wanted to find a way that we could meet, that people wouldn't have childcare issues, they wouldn't have travel issues, they wouldn't have disability issues, and everybody would be able to join in. So we established the working group, and for the first 3 months, we really were agreeing how we were going to work. And I think that was incredibly useful to do, to spend time thinking about the process of how we would work as a group together. So we created a document about that. We decided we didn't want a chair and we didn't want a secretary, we wanted a steering group. And we wanted that group to intuit what the wider group wanted, and to steer, yes, but to steer in that collaborative way. We spent time thinking about what areas we might work on, and we focused all the way through on actions. What will we do? What will have changed? How will we move action on? So the decision was taken that we would create subgroups, and the subgroups we agreed would be time focused. So we would have 6 sessions, 6 months, 1 a month of subgroup time. And the way we did that practically was we would all meet together on Zoom as the whole group. We'd have 20 minutes all together to talk about anything that was key or for all of us. And then we would use breakout rooms to go into subgroups, and we'd spend an hour in the breakout room. And then for the last 10 minutes, we'd come back into the whole group, and we would use that time not to share what we'd done, but to talk about the process. What was that like? What were the problems? You know, where are your hurdles? What do we need to do before the next meeting? And then the next thing that's happening for us is that in August, we're having a whole group meeting where we're having time to reflect on the work that we've done across the 6 months in subgroups. and to decide what we're going to do next. But in advance of that, we've done a little survey, and we do a lot of this, online surveys of the members saying, do you think you want to carry on? And there's a very clear message that this group wants to carry on. So originally, I talked about terms of reference. These were the kind of principles of those terms of reference. It was about collaborating, bringing together our best energies, being very linked in to the parish system. So making sure we forged strong links with parish councils, but we wanted the members of the working group to come from a broader group than that. We wanted there to be people who were members of climate and nature emergency working groups in their villages or their parishes. We wanted parish councillors, and we also wanted ward councillors to be part of it as well. And just anybody who had an interest and who was willing to roll up their sleeves and do something. So I think what that kind of flags up is how important it is to agree at the start of a process how you're going to work together. So this is where we're based. We're in the Chew Valley. For those of you that don't know it, it's sort of the surrounding area around the Chew Valley Lake. These are the local parishes that are involved, and you might notice if you're eagle-eyed that Compton Dando is not actually in the Chew Valley, but they were so keen to join us that they hopped over the boundary and they have joined in as well. I think it's fair to say that the thrust of energy for this group came from people who were members of parish climate and nature emergency working groups. So parishes where they'd declared a climate emergency, they'd set up a working group, and they were already doing stuff in their parish. I think those parishes started the process, led the process of where do we go with this, because they'd already started thinking about it. But some of them were parish councillors, and some of them were local residents. And almost in a second wave of interest in the group, in came the other parish councils, and we reached out specifically to them and said, you know, we're this group, come and join us. We also reached out to our ward councillors, and they are in part of the group as well. And we put it out to local residents through social media, through parish council communications, all kinds of ways. Anybody who was interested to step forward, then we wanted them to do so. And what you can see is this mesh of variety. And really that's the second thing I would emphasize, is how important it is to get a range of people with real diversity and to set it up so that everyone feels included, and so that it really is grassroots, community led. So this was our dilemma. How do you get people who don't know each other to connect about something that is urgent and crucial and huge? And the answer is, well, you know, it's a process. And I've already talked a little bit about some of the elements of that. I just want to focus on one thing, which is something about in the very groundwork of this group was the understanding that everyone has expertise and no one is the only expert. And that was really important, because we had some people in the group who were experts in a particular field. Perhaps they knew about waste recycling, perhaps they knew about renewable energy or something. And they were brilliant assets to have in the group, because it was like having a dictionary in the room or something, or an encyclopedia in the room. But actually, as valuable were people who knew nothing but were interested, who wanted to find out. So the expertise of the person who listens and asks naive questions and causes experts to have to explain themselves more simply, that's absolute gold dust in a group like this. So my strong encouragement really would be to make people feel that they have a place here, even if they know nothing about this. And we said early on, the only criteria for being in this group is that you are going to act. It's not a talking group. It's not a discussion forum. It's a group that's going to look to ways to act. So the second bit of the process, I suppose, was developing those ways of working. I talked a bit about that before. And really important that we had very clear timescales to work to, and also just agreed ways of working. And part of that is, you know, we know what the actions are that we're interested in. We have an action register to work out how we're doing. You know, people know they're going to get paperwork a week before a meeting and they're going to get notes a week after. All those kind of reliable structures in place. The other thing we agreed fairly early on was that we could draw in co-opted members, so we could reach out to people who we thought might have an expertise or an interest and draw them in. And that's been very useful as well. So when we started, those of us who'd been in village groups had certain areas that we thought might be the things that we'd want to focus on. So we had a broad idea of some themes that we might end up looking at, but we didn't know for sure. And so actually what we did was a really thorough brainstorm amongst group members. We asked them to ask their parish councils what's important to you. We asked them to think for themselves, you know, what are they passionate about? What do they really want to make change in? And so on. And so that a real value in not assuming ahead of time, oh, we'll do this, but really brainstorming what people want to do. And we came up with, I mean, this is just one of the groups, sustainable transport. We ended up with 4 groups, and we had a range of 18 actions. 5 of them sit underneath sustainable transport. And we asked people to rank and say, my parish council rates this really high. So this person, their parish council, and they themselves thought it was really important that we sorted out shared transport for 16 to 18-year-olds. For instance. So we got them to rank it. We had this massive sort of process, but we consulted, and that's the key. We consulted with individuals, we consulted with parish councils, and so we were pretty sure by the end of it that the areas we'd chosen were the areas that were wanted. And these are some of the questions we asked, you know, what's on top of my community's list? And it was different in different places, and it was really useful to bring in all those different things. The other thing I think was really important was really asking people what they are interested in personally and encouraging them to follow that, to go into the subgroup that they personally have a real interest in, because that passion takes things a long way. And the other thing we asked people to think about when they were considering all the options for action was, where is the leverage? You know, where is there an opportunity to actually make something change? And a good example of that was in sustainable transport, when we suddenly realized, oh, there's all these things going on in transport. There's potential leverage. If we can get ourselves activated, then that we might have some leverage, because Bus Back Better is around and WECA wants to have a plan and all these things. So thinking about that leverage was important as well. And it was important to prioritize, so that when we got to the end of meeting 3, we said, these are the 18 actions. These are the 4 subgroups. That's it. No more discussion about whether we do other things. This is what we're doing for 6 months. And then we can look at other things. And this is what we ended up with. 4 subgroups, split the group evenly between them. And different subgroups did different things. And actually that's quite important. So I was in the sustainable transport group. We did an awful lot of watching conferences and meeting up with people in Zoom, and we did a survey across the valley. Nature protection group, totally different things they did. So I'm going to come on to show you a little bit about that in a minute. But what was important was that you allow the subgroup, having said these are your actions, you allow the subgroup to have autonomy, you know, to choose how they're going to do that. This is our action register for transport. This became incredibly important to pin down, you know, how urgent is this? Who's going to do it? When are they going to do it by? And really stick to it and crack on through those actions. And that makes people accountable to their subgroup. And that was really, really useful in this. So I wanted to show you something about the different things that people did. This was the nature protection group. You can see some of what they worked on was about light pollution and maintaining dark skies to reduce carbon in that way. Some of it was about nature corridors. And one really important thing for this group was the value of co-opting members. So they realized they wanted to work on dark skies. They realized they didn't know enough about it. They went and found an expert, and that expert joined the group. And that was really, really useful. I'm whizzing through, but home energy, this was a group that had a huge sort of area of things they could potentially look at and how to reduce carbon at home. I would say for this group, one of the real learning points was the value of drawing on expertise. So we were very fortunate to be able to connect in with the sustainability team in Baines, with the cheese project in Bristol, and use those links to really learn about what needed to be done. The renewable energy group, they had a huge task of thinking, well, how do we even start thinking about renewable energy? And they had to kind of adjust their focus. So initially they thought, let's do a community energy project across the whole of the Chew Valley. As they worked along, they realized that actually they could encourage 3 particular parishes who were really potentially going to go for this. And so that's how they changed their focus to thinking about how to bring expertise to those parishes, working with Bath and West Community Energy, working with Regen, and so on. And then sustainable transport, we did a whole scoping of the Chew Valley, a very rural area, to think about what the problems were. We did loads of finding out about exciting things happening in, the Highlands of Scotland with community transport. We did a lot of connecting with the school about post-16 transport, and we also did 2 surveys, one of school students and one across the Chew Valley. And that enabled us, that gave us a window, if you like, to connect in with Baines, to connect in with WECA. And we're very much hoping that we'll be part of a WECA forum going forward. And for this group, a bit like I was saying earlier, that the key learning was the value of being strategic, noticing where can our voice be heard in this, and what can we add? How can we add value to Baines, to WECA? And certainly I think our sustainable transport survey has done that. They've got a lot of local data from that exercise. So this is our next steps. As I said, we're going to look at how we've got on in August. We're hoping that we'll continue to influence decisions, both in parish councils, in Baines, in WECA. A good example of that at the moment, coming from Chew Valley Forum, we're now going back out to parishes saying, can we help you get electric charging networks in your rural areas? So we're influencing, we're into parish councils. And we're networking as much as we possibly can with all sorts of different groups. And really, what I would say about that, and the reason we're giving over August to reflection, is it feels so important when you're going bang, 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 bang with actions, to stop and say, are we going in the right direction? What have we done that's useful? What do we need to do next? So the final slide really was just collecting some of the things that we've learned, I suppose, through the process. I'm not going to read them all out. You can see them yourself on the screen, but I think the key message, if you like, is there is a real value in continuous learning, in just carrying on thinking, now what do we need to learn? Now what do we need to learn? And bringing the team along with that, really valuing the whole team through that. I will end it there. I do actually also have, I do have some further slides, if anybody wants them, about the Sustainable Transport Survey and the outcomes of that, what we found out. But I didn't want to bore the pants off the meeting. So I hope I've met my brief there. I've done it within the 20 minutes, hurrah! 13 seconds left.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Thank you very much. One immediate question that's come in is wanting to know who the dark skies expert is.
Okay. His name is Josh Jury, and he lives in oh gosh, where does he live? Compton Martin, which is within the Chew Valley. If anybody wants to, I tell you what, I'll put my email. If anybody wants to send me their email, I will send it on to Josh. I don't want to give his email here because that doesn't feel fair. But
that's fair enough. Thank you, Jackie. And
that's me.
Thank you. And yes, all Douglas, all slides do get circulated after the meeting. So, open to the floor for questions. I suppose there's an overriding thought here that we perhaps should put our mind to is, how do we on the Bathhaven Forum take this subject forwards? Questions, please. Queries?
I think Dave Orm's got his hand up and Hugh Prentice has got his hand up by the look of it.
Dave, you go first.
I can't see any hands up.
Oh, physical hands up.
Oh,
opposed
physical
to mechanical hands up.
Ah, right. There are 3 screens, so if you hold your hand physically up, you may be hidden from view. Sorry, Dave, I'm sorry. Go for it.
As you know, John, I'm particularly impressed with what's been happening in the Chew Valley. In terms of the structure and visibility it gives to a huge amount of things that we've all got to get our heads around as we go forward from COVID and into the next year. I think we have a tremendous opportunity as the new forum stands up to do something similar. I'm not saying from the off we should copy what Jackie and the team have done, but I think they are leading the way in showing how we can get our heads around how the new forum might operate and put some structure and governance and visibility about what we're about. And I would love to see us do something similar. And I certainly stand ready to be part of it.
Thank you very much, Dave. Much appreciated. Richard.
Unmuted, yes. I think Jackie, that sounds fantastic work in the Chew Valley. And I just wanted to say a little short piece about my interest. So last summer, I helped found what's perhaps rather grandiosely called the Bristol River Avon bioregional group. And I just wonder if it's worth mentioning at this point in the forum's life, as it may offer a unifying approach. So in nature's terms, our lives, all of us, are bound together by the catchment of the Bristol River Avon. Our lives absolutely depend on the water that flows under our feet and through our rivers, the rivers that all actually become the River Avon and out to the sea at Avonmouth, and of course nourishes the soils. And I think it can help because we feel divided by the river. So for instance, as I said earlier, I'm in Windsor, so I'm the Wiltshire side of the River Avon, and it forms a county boundary. But in truth, I'm united with all those on the other side because my life depends on the water as much as theirs does. And I think all these forums connect by the river. So the River Chew, I know, flows into the River Avon, I think somewhere near Kingsham. So I wanted to mention this unifying idea and the fact that this group's going and we're part of a UK practitioner group, and the concept arose in the 70s and is active in the UK and particularly in North America. So that when we do our work, we actually work with all the forums and we're working towards the good of the whole, and the whole being the catchment of the Bristol River Avon, and that would also include us thinking about how the rural spaces relate to the cities in the bioregion and vice versa, and how vital our rural spaces are to actually supporting the material needs of the cities, but hopefully all within the carrying capacity of nature in our bioregion. I hope that might fire some interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. That's fantastic. What I'm going to ask,
I think Hugh had his
he
hand up
does.
earlier. Yeah.
He does. I haven't forgotten you, Hugh, at all. And I'll come to you in a second. Before I do, I'm going to ask Mark Hayward to run up a couple of polls, because one measure we don't understand within Bathhaven is how many parish councils have actually declared a climate emergency resolution. So if you could run that poll, Mark. And Hugh.
Are you happy for me to fill it in as well, or would you rather I didn't, as I'm an interloper?
Well, given it asks who your parish council is.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Great. Shall I carry on while people are filling that in?
Please just carry on. Absolutely.
Great. Well, firstly, I'm really enthused by what Jackie said. I'm part of Wellow Parish Council, which hasn't, sorry, I'm part of Wellow Parish. I'm not on the council at the moment, but the Parish Council hasn't declared an emergency yet, sadly. But I've got a question and suggestion, and it's about financing. Have you managed to find any sources of funds to, to assist with this really early stage work, and possibly to carry on with work? And then secondly, if I can share, I hope, something on chat. It's about working together to get a large project or projects off the ground, and being quite creative with your finances. So have you thought of increasing precepts? Has anyone done this? And borrowing money to achieve things? So sort of two questions and a suggestion.
Yeah, sure. The first thing to say is that the working group doesn't have any finances. We don't have any power to spend money, if you like. So we have a begging bowl. And so far, just to give you a bit of a sense of it, so we make a lot of use of SurveyMonkey within our group. If you only have 41 people and we're under that, that's free. So you can use SurveyMonkeys, you can use doodle polls, all of that can happen for free, no cost incurred. Everyone who is on the steering group and doing a lot of work behind the scenes in that way, we're not paid or anything like that. We're excited and we've got in there, and that's true of everyone on the group. That said, when we wanted to do the cross parish survey and we knew we wanted to get it out right across the valley, we took the decision to do it as a SurveyMonkey, but we wanted to write quite complex questions so that we would have really detailed data, and we have got really detailed data. And we knew that we would need, therefore, we'd need more than 41 people, and we'd need different features and all that stuff that you have to pay for. So what we negotiated with Bain's research department was that we could use their SurveyMonkey system. So we had to write it all, create the whole thing how we want it to be, but then we sort of, had an email exchange. Some lovely person actually created it, and then gave us the link so that we could follow as the results came in. We could see them, we could see where they were coming from. That was incredibly valuable. And it meant we could do things like, we noticed Blagdon, nobody answered from Blagdon. So first of all, we did a social media campaign to Blagdon. nobody answered from Blagdon. And then we did a email trail to people who ask everyone you know in Blagdon, nobody answered from Blagdon. Then finally I went and printed off flyers and took them and had conversations in the street. 11 people answered from Blagdon. You know, so what am I saying here? So there's a certain amount of people giving, you know, I printed off those flyers, that kind of thing, but also getting somebody who'll help you with that research bit if you choose to do research is really key. The other thing, we decided to put flyers, we tried to get a stall at Valleyfest and didn't get there in time, but we managed to get flyers into the goodie bags being given out, and the sustainability department in Baines agreed to pay for that because we were trying to recruit in more people, and that was one way of doing it, and it wasn't much, it was 20 quid or something. In terms of the renewable energy projects, we've linked in with Bath and West Community Energy, and they are now working, as I said, with 3 different parishes, where the parishes have managed to raise the money to have them come and do a survey of feasibility in their area. And then from then on, actually, Bath and West Community Energy, the way it works is that you have shareholders and you know, people do invest a certain amount of money, but actually money comes back to the community. So it's a fundraiser in the end. And Bath and West Community Energy is not the only group that does that. There are other groups doing it as well. So that's another way of getting funding in. And then the cheese project, I'm not entirely up to date on this, but I think that subgroup applied for a grant so that they're going to get a certain number of Cheese does these heat source energy surveys of your home and shows you where the drafts are and what needs doing, and they've got a certain number of those at a lower cost through this kind of whatever it is grant thing. So there's going to be hopefully a big old thing going on in the Chew Valley, going out and subsidised to families who can't afford to pay to have it done. So yeah,
great.
I think that's the only things we've had funding for.
Great. And any sort of concept?
Oh, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing. In the parish councils, some of the parish councils, at our encouragement, have used SIL money. So in East Harptree, SIL money was used to repair a section of ground that now creates a wildlife corridor. It was used in a project to get school children putting flowers into hedgerows. You know, so SIL money, that's a good one.
It is. I can confirm that in Freshford we use SIL money alongside Limply Stoke and a community forum. We've now got a scoping study underway for community renewable and energy project. And this is all experience that I think is worth sharing. The interesting thing is that I turn it round, actually. The question is money is actually the easy part to get. The hard part to get is the resources. Where do you put these facilities? We were very, very nervous because landowners are generally interested in what the land can bring them. We seem to have struck on a field where we sort of girded our loins and went and spoke to the farmer last week. Farmer, oh yeah, oh, you can have another field too. Just do it. That's the hardest part. We're finding funding is available from elsewhere. What we don't have, and this is why I'm trying to bring this to a head, is we can only go so far. There are things we can't do on our own as a parish council. We need to work with other parish councils. And in talking to people, it seemed that there are a whole host of subjects that actually we need to work together. There's things we can do at the parish level, things we can do at a forum level, things that need to be done at a Baines level, and things that needs to be done at a national level. We've all got a role to play. And the other thing that's driven me to have this session is, it seems obvious. Let's turn the pyramid in reverse. If we as a community all group together and create a pressure point through Bathhaven Forum, as Chew Valley have, and also the same thing happens in Somer Valley, Keynsham, Bath, suddenly Baines have got all the forums turning round, giving a clear message that has to be listened to. And if that approach is taken in other local authorities, then all the local authorities are pushing upwards with the same message, which starts to force a government to take account of voices from another direction other than who's voting them in. Because it's the community speaking in a non-political way. Anyway, that's a personal view, but I think it's powerful.
I've just answered one of the questions, which was about how do we, it's a massive problem without money, where can we begin for charging points? And just on that one, Travel West, if you go on the Travel West website, they are asking for suggestions to put electric vehicle charging points. And one of the comments on the Cross Valley survey, which I just found so inspiring, somebody said, wouldn't it be great if every parish in this country, in this area, had an electric charging point next to their community hall? And I thought, what a brilliant idea. Yeah, so Travel West are looking, they have a project called Revive, I think it's called, where they're trying to put places, you have to evidence that they will be well used. And there's a whole, community agreement or whatever, but it's certainly worth exploring that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Because I like to put a proposal to everybody. No? What?
Oh, can I just pick up on one other point?
Please do.
I can't. Oh, here we go. Somebody said, is it worth for a very small parish council to embark on this? Yes. So East Harptree has 300 households. That's pretty small. We have Hinton Blewett, which I think has 120 households. These are small parishes, and absolutely it's worth it. So Hinton Blewett, I'm sure they won't mind me using them as an example. The two reps from their area are both parish councillors. They've tried to get a climate and nature emergency declared, and they haven't succeeded. So although there's two of them want it done, they haven't succeeded. So when they saw this, they absolutely leapt at it and said, okay, here's a chance for us to be bigger than ourselves. In fact, I think I'm wrong saying they're 100. I think they're more like 60 households. So please, if you're a small parish, this is perfect for you. And if you're a large parish, well, why not combine up and get bigger and therefore be able to be even more ambitious?
Yeah.
The other thing, actually, that Bath and West Community Energy said to us was, we'd be really interested to work with your group, because then we're not having to deal with, 15 parishes. We're dealing with one source of information. So, that's the other thing to think about. Sorry,
Well,
I'll shut up now. I'm too excited. I get overexcited.
Jackie, you're absolutely right, and that is one of the benefits of having a forum climate group. It helps really useful bodies engage in a far simpler manner on a far wider basis. You're absolutely right about BWC. The same thing for the bioregion group, and there are others. Proposal I'd like to put is that a group of us get together, we build an outline proposal, because at the moment we're talking, we're not doing, and we build a proposal to put to the next meeting, a terms of reference, if you like. Essentially, for those of you who deal with projects professionally, is project initiation. We build the documentation for the forum to agree to take a climate group forwards. And that's what I'd like to do. So I'm not asking permission at this meeting. I'd like to ask permission at September's meeting. There's not much time. Helps focus minds. The fourth question on the poll was whether you would be willing to engage. Sorry, I haven't got the results in front of me. Oh, okay. 69% have said you like to participate in that setup process. So that's what I think we should do. If anyone feels that's not the right approach, could you please say so now? Or feels there's a better way? This has to be open, and we have to start moving forwards and engaging the broader communities. I might as well say this. I'm aware that there are some parishes within Bathhaven that are, shall we say, reticent on the climate front. I think by having a Bathhaven forum, we can actually end up having the community engaged. And so we can become inclusive across the community. This is not meant to rubbish parish councils, but it's meant to enable the communities to get engaged and start being involved with others in the field of addressing climate and nature emergency. Okay. I'm being quite what's the word I'm looking for? Brutal? No. Presumptive. As 69% have said, yes, I'm willing to participate. I'm happy to take that as a basis for proceeding, and we undertake project initiation. For want of a phrase, I can't think of a better way of putting it. And we build the papers and present to September's meeting. Mark, do you have contact details of those who said yes?
I do. After this meeting, I'll be able to look at the behind the scenes data in Zoom to be able to pick that information up, John. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
John, I should also say that I said no. So your 69% is not, it's higher than that.
So yeah, we can take Jackie out of the equation then.
No, that's fair. That there will be some people on the forum who think, no, that's a good thing to do, but not, no, I'm not the right person.
Just
that's
to let you
fine.
know, I think Anna from Claverton has got a hand up. I think she wanted to speak, John.
Oh, sorry. I've ended up without a view of people. Anna, go ahead, please.
Well, it's not that I wouldn't like to participate, but I don't feel that I can take the decision on behalf of my parish council. Yes, I might be the chair, but I'm just one of them. We're really very small and stretched with the other challenges we are encountering. I really don't want to commit myself or any of my councillors to anything. It's interesting, and we'll look at it.
Can I come in there to say something about that? Because I think it's crucial. There are some parish councils where the parish councillors are bent over backwards with work, particularly in COVID, you know, just working their guts out, and they haven't got the energy and they haven't got the capacity and they don't feel that they can do it. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
In your parish, put something out on your parish community saying, we want a rep or two to be part of this group. Come forward. You don't have to have any skills. You don't have to know anything at all about the climate and the nature emergency. Just be willing to learn, to take part, to roll your sleeves up. We've got some brilliant people who would not dream of being part of a parish council. They would be freaked out at the thought of it, the formality of it, or, you know, the responsibility of it. But something like this, they shine.
Yeah, and you, Anna, you don't have to be involved in the setup process. That's fine. There's nothing taken amiss. I'm aware you got 1 or 2 issues in Claverton. Not surprisingly, we're virtually next door. But moving forward, it'd be fantastic if someone from Claverton could be involved. It's not taking part in initiation is not a problem. Does that help?
Yes and no. I feel put on the spot now because I spoke.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to do that. I do apologise.
It's just that I see everybody saying yes, 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 and I wonder, you know, why they feel that they can speak for their whole parish council. I'm amazed that they can. I don't feel I can. I will have to put this to my parish council and it will have to be discussed. And as for finding someone else in the village, there are 40 households. There are fewer than 100 voters across the parish. Finding someone, yes, we got someone who's absolutely passionate about bats. I'm sure that she would be able to help, except that she doesn't really live here all the time. And we try to accommodate everything.
No, yes, I do.
Yes.
I mean, Jan's raised a point which she's absolutely right on. I'm well aware of. Is we in the Bathhaven Forum have got completely different demographics to the Chew Valley, absolutely different, and it's not necessarily that we would have the same structure, because what we need to do is have a think about how do we take this forwards. This isn't, the next step isn't committing parish councils to anything, because as yet we don't know what we are doing. The next step is to work out what we need to do. So we don't actually have anything substantive for a parish council to agree to. The next step is to put something together for parish councils to agree to, for this forum to agree to.
The other thing I would say, Anna, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot at all. But what I would say is, I guess some parishes might have been talking about this a lot, so they might feel they can talk for their parish council because it's been on the agenda and they've been saying, what should we do about it? And so they can. Others may feel after this meeting that actually, oh, good point, I need to go back and check whether this is a priority for my parish or not. You know, my hunch is there'll probably be enough parishes to do it. And if there are parishes that can't join in, they might still benefit from this group existing. They might still get stuff from it.
And could join in later.
Sure.
I mean, we're not saying, Anna, we're not saying sign up now or forever hold your peace. Far, far, far from it. But what I'm very keen to do is to get something defined that we can actually get our teeth into and take forwards. And there is no inference being drawn from people who aren't able to take part at this moment. There are a whole host of reasons why that may be the case.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can put together a proposal on behalf of the whole Bathaven Forum, then it will be discussed at our next meeting, early September. Yeah,
exactly. And are we going to have everything resolved then? Well, no.
No.
I've seen Douglas has got his hand up, just in case you still can't see the screen.
I still
John.
can't. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank Thank you very much. Just one question. We signed up to the climate emergency after I had seen a webinar from BWCE, which I thought was really useful. And that set out a structure of monthly discussion topics that we could put on our website, and we're actually putting it out through our village newsletter. All of that seemed to come to a halt. Was that because funding had stopped, or have I lost a thread somewhere?
I don't know the answer to that. If you're asking me, I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid.
To anybody, really.
I thought that there was a pilot number of months for the communications.
Yeah.
And that came to an end, and I haven't heard since.
That's my understanding as well. And for us, I mean, for me, it just gave me a thread every month. There was something in the newsletter. There was communication directly to our email village group, and we, like a number of parishes, I think we have 140 people with 44 households. So we're relatively small, but we're a rural parish spread over quite a large area, separating Bristol and Bath, so they don't argue with each other all the time. But for us, it was a great opportunity, I think, because there's so many different things that we felt we could get involved with, whether it be wind arrays or turbines or anything. But it was just something. There was a message that went out to everybody on a monthly basis.
Yeah,
and it stopped, and I thought that was a great shame. It was a great way of engaging with everybody.
I don't disagree with you. I second that sentiment. It's a shame it stopped. Hey ho. Okay, and any other questions?
So did I understand that was the BWCE newsletter?
The newsletter wasn't, well, the one I know about wasn't BWCE, but it was from, I'd have to go through my emails, but it did have West, it did have energy in the title. Is that right, Douglas?
I had thought it was a BWCE webinar where, you're quite right, they were running a pilot, which we engaged with. We were sent details, which we could then disseminate through to everybody on a monthly basis. I think it was BWCE. If I got the wrong organisation, I apologise.
I think it might have been them, actually. I think they were doing a sort of like a communications trial. How do you communicate with your parish about the needs of the climate and nature emergency? Yeah, I think that's right. The other thing I'd say is some of the parishes in the Tube Valley now have quite good websites. So Compton Martin Climate Group, I think they're called, they've got a website with a lot on it, and they're very active on Instagram, putting out messages on Instagram, that kind of thing. And then there's Green Chew, which is based in Chew Magna, and that's from the Chew Magna Climate Group. In East Harptree, we have a page sitting on the parish council website about climate and nature emergency. So you might find little resources in pockets around the place, and certainly Baines has some brilliant things like the Energy at Home website, which is really good for retrofitting and that kind of thing. I mean, I could pass on to you, John, a list of some of those contacts if you like, for you to circulate with.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Just had a message from Mark. Sarah, you'd like a word, or was it the text you just sent?
Yeah, no, it was just what I wrote in the chat, was whether the organisation you're trying to remember the name of was the Centre for Sustainable Energy.
Yes, it was. I was conflating two things. Thank you, Sarah.
They ran a training day for parish councils, didn't they?
Yes, they did, and that's where I picked it up from.
Sarah also has a very good blog called Pollinators and Placards, or Placards and Pollinators. She's worth getting onto Sarah's blog. Lots of good links there.
Thank you. Right, if there aren't any other questions, I'll move on to AOB. if anyone has anything they wish to raise. No. Future meetings. The next meeting is the 15th of September 2021, and the list of future meetings that Mark Hayward sent out, they're not in 2020, they're in 2021. No, we do not have the TARDIS to go back in time. I'm sorry. We're here. We can't go back to pre-pandemic as much as we would like to.
Very good, John. Very good.
Okay.
John, I was just going to pick up on one more thing on the chat that I've only just seen.
Please do.
Somebody saying a huge Zoom meeting is very difficult for having meaningful conversations regarding the whole topic of the climate emergency. Each PC has different issues, environments, etc. So this is only if we can get into smaller groups. I completely agree.
Yes.
And that's exactly how we've worked in ours, is to go into. So even when we were having those whole group meetings at the beginning to decide how we were going to work, we broke into subgroups all the time and said, okay, let's go and talk about this for 15 minutes and then come back, or let's talk for 30 minutes and come back.
Yeah.
Definitely Zoom's brilliant for that.
And that's very, very easy to set up. And I actually suspect we're going to break out into smaller groups on a broader basis than Chew Valley because of the different pressures in the different demographics. But let's see how things go. Jan, you're absolutely right. The forum like this, for everything to be discussed in this way, is not the right approach. What I can say is we ran a community climate forum within Freshford, and we had, I've forgotten the exact number, it was what, mid-80s. It's a huge number from the community who attended. We broke out into separate chat groups, no more than 6 people. So there's a multitude of chat groups, and it's really, really successful. Zoom does work. Creates pressure on having to get stuff done, but that's good. Okay. Thank you. In that case, if there's nothing else to raise, I thank everybody for attending. And for the first time in my chairmanship, we're finishing early. 15 minutes early. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and look forward to seeing you all shortly.